Hello and welcome back to Pod Popper's Place and another of the Kendra's Card Challenge number 9 card sketches. Today I'm doing sketch number 1. Sketch number 1 uses papers A and B, and apparently I missed the instructions where it said to use non-directional paper for sheet A because my paper has a direction. So in order to solve this dilemma, you decided to turn the card on its side. Thankfully, Kendra's Card Challenge is very forgiving. For the white rectangle with the extra detail around the edge, I just used a die that already had some details around the edging, and rather than adding my own. And then for the strips of paper that are crossing it, I decided to use 1/4-inch ribbon instead. I decided to add black as my layering pieces and also as the rectangle piece on the front. And so I'm going to use some white paper to cut out and color this adorable pig from a honeybee stamp set. This card doesn't have a specific spot for a sentiment, but I will be using the sentiment from the stamp set that says, "Sending you hogs and kisses." For my first attempt at stamping and heat embossing the "Sending You" sentiment on the front, I use white pigment ink and some quite old regular white embossing powder. As you can see, it leaves behind quite a few white flakes, so I decided to try it again, this time with the same white pigment ink, but some super fine Ranger Inks embossing powder instead. This gave a much cleaner look, but I still wasn't quite happy because there still was some extra flakes on there that shouldn't be. So I decided to try it one more time, replacing the pigment ink with Versamark instead. In the end, this turned out to be the best possible option. As you can see, the Versamark gave a much cleaner print and heat embossing results than the other two options. I colored the pig off screen using Spectrum Noir colors in the CR family, adding gel pen details in both black and white. Having learned my lesson from the previous heat embossing, I decided to just go straight for the Versamark for the Hogs and Kisses sentiment. I cut the Hogs and Kisses out of black as well and heat and set that with white embossing powder again. And one thing I love about honeybee stamps, honey cuts, is that they cut nice and close around the sentiments. And even though the die is only one piece, it actually cuts the words out in 3 separate pieces. I will not be creating videos for every single sketch in Kendra's Cards Challenge, but you can always find the pictures for every single sketch on my Instagram at Pod Popper's Place. Another option I had, since my paper was the wrong direction, was using the back side of the paper because I used two-sided paper. Of course, I didn't think of this until I was putting glue on, but that definitely would have been an option, which would have allowed me to keep the card in the original vertical design. At this point of the design, I realized I probably should have added my ribbon before gluing all of my pieces down. And so this makes it a little difficult to cut the ribbon to the exact lengths that I need. So I decide to add some paper strips behind the ribbon. So I cut some paper strips to 1/4 inch and glue my ribbon on top of the quarter inch strips. And this gives it a little bit more stability and also makes it more simple to add them to the top of my card. It does make it a little bit thicker, so I do add some white strips to the back side of the paper so that it lays more evenly on top. And then I leave just a little notch space in between the paper on the longer strip so that it sits over the top of the first piece of ribbon. Because this card has so many layers, I decided to add a small strip of black to the bottom of the black rectangle so that the edge sits more flush on the card. The little piggy ends up kind of hanging over the sides of the sign a little bit, but I think that adds more to the whimsy of it all. And then I just add the Hogs and Kisses to the side there, and I end up popping up the Hogs kisses part, I leave the and glued down, but the hugs and kisses are up on some foam tape just so that it pops a little bit more. And then the last thing on this card was supposed to be 3 little embellishment accents there where the kisses is. And I kind of didn't realize that until I'd already put the kisses down. So I decided to just call my kisses the embellishment parts and just not add anything extra there because I didn't want it to seem like it was kind of forced. Overall, it's been really fun working with this Echo Park paper so far, and I'm excited to finish out the challenge. Be sure to check out Kendra's Card Challenge number 9 on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube.